This shoe brand has been worn by Emma Stone, Poppy Delevigne, Gigi Hadid, and many other celebrities. Also, royals are fans, for example, the Princess of Wales or also Queen Letizia of Spain. And the shoe also had cameos in many movies, for example, House of Gucci or the James Bond movies. And the signature characteristics of the brand, for example, this tiny little pineapple on the sole, or also sometimes the tiny bow in the back, have become, I would say, as iconic as Christian Louboutin's red sole or the famous buckles by Roger Vivier or Manolo Blahnik. You may have already guessed it, I'm talking about Aquazzura, and it's actually quite interesting. This brand is so famous, so many people wear those shoes, but not many people know much about the background of this Italian shoe brand. A lot of people don't know who is the designer, what was the major inspiration for founding the brand. So I thought in this video I'm going to share the 5 basic facts about this Italian shoe brand. And I'm holding this beautiful shoe in my hands here, but I have to say that this is a non-sponsored video. I'm just sharing my personal opinion and my research here. Fact number 1, who actually is behind Aquazzura? The brand was founded by Edgardo Osorio and Ricardo de Almeida Figueiredo, and in general I have the feeling that they don't want to put themselves too much into the spotlight. There are not too many interviews with them. There's also not too much available information online about the two of them. If you find information, it's more about Edgardo Osorio, because he then is also the face of the brand, and in general they follow the strategy that the brand comes first and then the people behind it. Edgardo Osorio, even though he founded an Italian shoe brand, was actually born in Colombia, in Cartagena, and I could not find the correct birth date, but if my calculations are correct, he was born in 1986, and his partner Ricardo de Almeida Figueiredo is 14 years older. He is originally from Portugal, and before founding the brand, he worked in PR, and he worked with brands in fashion, for example, Louis Vuitton, Cartier, or Gucci. I assume from my research that the two partners split up the tasks, they complement each other, because Edgardo Osorio is the creative, the designer, and Ricardo de Almeida Figueiredo is more the business mind behind it, the communications mind behind it. This is just my assumption, but I think this is very likely. Edgardo Osorio actually has a very international life. He was born in Colombia, but then also raised in Miami and London. In London, he did a summer course at Central St. Martin's. He also had small stints at René Caovilla and also Roberto Cavalli. He then enrolled in an accessories course at the London College of Fashion, but then he dropped out to work with Ferragamo. He worked with Salvatore Ferragamo himself, and in interviews Osorio says that he still has very fond memories of the shoe designer. The main reason why Osorio decided to found his own business was that he felt that at the time everything in fashion was very messy, depressing, and he wanted to create something beautiful and positive. So he and Ricardo then founded the business in his old apartment in 2011-2012. From then on, the development was very, very fast, because soon they were available in department stores like Saks, but also online on Net-a-Porter. And one of the very first supporters of the business was the former Vogue editor Lauren Santo Domingo, because they showed her the shoes and then convinced her to do a trunk show. And after the trunk show, she ordered the complete collection for her online fashion platform Moda Operandi. I would say Osorio's mantra is living your best life. He himself very often mentions this in articles, and he also said that a lot of his friends or his family thought that he was crazy founding a shoe brand in times of a recession, but he thinks, especially in more challenging times, we need something beautiful. He also mentioned a quote by John F. Kennedy where he says, it's not a direct quote, it's along the lines of, in difficult times or in times of crisis, people are more successful because we have this need to try and survive. So I also agree with this. I think just because the times are more challenging, it does not mean that we don't need beauty or that we can't succeed. And another thing that Osorio is also very grateful for is that he can travel that much, that he has this privilege, because he says for him, this gives him a lot of inspiration. He learns a lot, and he also gets a lot of different points of view, and this also shapes his own opinion. What I find really interesting about Edgardo Osorio is that he has so many different interests. interests, he also says that he has a big passion for interior design. And if he hadn't become a shoe designer, he would have probably ended up as an interior designer. And I think you can see that because when you look into Aquazzura stores, it's kind of a signature. It's colorful, it's kind of whimsical, it's interesting, and you know it's Aquazzura, and I'm sure this is also influenced by Osorio himself. And another thing that he very much enjoys is hosting memorable events, as he calls it, where he has a theme and then he builds everything around that theme. I think this is actually helping him to network for his brand. We will talk about this in another fact. And it actually reminded me of somebody. Maybe you also thought the same. It reminded me of Lagerfeld, who was also famous for his parties, but then also used this hosting not only for networking, but also for his fashion shows, for example, and his designs. Fact number 2, selling the Italian dream. When you hear Aquazzura, what do you immediately think about? Italy, probably holidays by the beach, the fashion, food, people, this lifestyle, the dolce vita. This is exactly what Aquazzura stands for. I found many articles saying that Aquazzura means blue water, but if you know me well, I want to be precise, and this is actually a word made up of 2 separate words. Aqua and azzurra. Aqua means water in Italian, azzurra means blue. So the meaning is blue water, but it's actually a merged word. And there was actually a song in the 1960s called Aquazzura, Acqua Chiara by Lucio Battisti. And maybe you've heard it already. If you say it fast, Aquazzura becomes the brand name. Osorio says that he was inspired for the brand in 2011. He was at the terrace of the JK Place Hotel in Capri and he was looking out on the blue water. This is how he got inspired for this brand name. And he also said that it was a very conscious decision not to use his own name for the shoe brand, because he said he wants people to relate to this Italian lifestyle and not to his name. And another problem that he sees is that if you use your own name for shoes, for example, people project your personality or what they know about you on these shoes, and they can't really go beyond that. I actually agree with him. I think this was a very smart move that he used this made-up brand name instead of his own name. He also said in one interview that he thinks that this current movement in the fashion industry, that the big brand names drop the first names of designers. For example, Yves Saint Laurent became Saint Laurent, no comment on that. He thinks the brands do that because they want to withdraw themselves a bit more from this personality of the designer. I'm not sure if this is really working for them, but this is a different topic. This made-up brand name lets him create an entire Aquazzura universe, we could say, because it gives him more flexibility. So I definitely think this was a very smart decision. Another signature characteristic of the brand, which also has a link to Italy, even though at first sight we would not assume this, is the pineapple. Osorio says that the pineapple has a very important meaning also in Italy. Like in many other cultures, it stands for wealth, for good fortune, for fertility, and it's kind of a lucky charm. And he started to collect everything related to pineapples, porcelain, I think keychains, if I remember correctly, and then also friends gifted him these pineapple accessories or items, and then he thought he wanted to put it on the sole of the shoe because the pineapple should be carried with you every day for good luck, basically. And by having it on the sole of your shoe, this positive energy basically goes from bottom to top, and you carry the positive energy of the pineapple every day with you, which I think is a very nice thought. Fact number 3, from Ferragamo to weddings to New York, and this equals Aquazzura. Osorio worked for Ferragamo, as I mentioned previously, but when he worked for somebody else, he realized that naturally he had to work in the lines of this person's brand DNA, and he wanted more flexibility, so he soon realized that he wanted to run his own business. And then there's a very famous story, I would say it's cited in many articles about Aquazzura. Osorio said that in one summer he was attending 12 weddings, and so many of the ladies actually complained that the shoes were uncomfortable, that they didn't like that. So he started thinking, And then he also went on a trip to New York City, and he was browsing in the department stores to also get some inspiration. And then he realized something. He realized that there was no voice from his generation. The really big shoe designers at the time were already in their 40s or 50s, but there was nobody his age. So then he had the idea of creating a shoe brand, and then he remembered the weddings and said, I want to create a shoe brand that marries beauty and comfort. And to bring those shoes to life, he worked with an experienced technician, because it was very important that the body weight was distributed evenly on the shoe. And it was also very important that they put in padding on the right places of the shoe, basically. And I can only confirm this. The shoes have some padding in there, which makes it more comfortable. And I found this very interesting because when I did the video about Christian Louboutin, you may remember that I said Louboutin has a very different view of this. He says, first I create the shoe, then I focus on if it's actually possible, then I talk to the technicians, and actually we could say he does not really care if women are comfortable walking in his shoes. And Osorio says he wants the clients to be comfortable in the shoes, be able to walk in the shoes. And he also attributes a lot of the success to this marriage of comfort and beauty. He says a lot of celebrities wear the shoes on the red carpet because they are beautiful, but they can also walk in them, and this makes them more confident. So this is why it works so well. From my own experience, I can say, yes, these shoes are comfortable. I do have to say I have very high Aquazzura shoes, so I don't really expect to be completely comfortable the whole day in like very high heels. But they are among the more comfortable high heels in the industry, even though I think the Manolo Blahnik ones are still a bit more comfortable, but maybe I'm a bit biased here. I would like to know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments below if you also think that Aquazzura shoes are actually quite comfortable. And I watched an interview with Osorio where he said, I design shoes so that you look your best, so that you're comfortable. And I actually appreciate this, that a designer also has this in the back of his mind. So he has the beauty and also the comfort. He also says that his team very often tries on the shoes, that they wear them for a few weeks and then come back with feedback if the shoe really works. And he also says that his shoes have to be put on and worn, because he says a lot of his colleagues, they design shoes and they see them as objects. But then when you put them on, it does not really work. So when you put on the shoe comes to life, and this is his philosophy behind designing his shoes. And this brings me to fact number 4, the design approach. The shoes are real conversation starters. It doesn't matter if it's the small bow in the back or also this pineapple detail or the shoes themselves, because I'm sure you have seen the tequila sandals, these very glitzy sandals. Also, the butterfly sandals are very cute. Then I personally really like the bougainvillea shoes, the sandals in pink, by the way. I've been trying to find them online on vintage platforms and I can't find them. So if you ever stumble upon a size 36.5, you can let me know in the comments below, because this is really a pair of shoes that I've been looking for a very long time. Osorio very much emphasizes the timelessness of his designs, because he says for him it's very important to create something not trendy, but something that lasts, that's made from good material, that will be handed down from generation to generation, and that will always look very nice. And I do have to say, even the older designs by Osorio, they still look very interesting. You can't really tell the years on them. Of course, certain shoe shapes are more fashionable or trendy than others, but that's something that I really like, that you buy these shoes and they look very nice for a very long time. You will appreciate them for a very long time. I discovered one interesting comment by Osorio where he says that with the right shoe and the right accessory, you can kind of cover up if you wear a cheap dress, for example. To a certain degree, yes, I agree with him, but to a certain degree, I have to disagree. Because I think, the price tag does not really say if the quality is great. You don't always have to wear branded things. But I do think if your dress overall looks really cheap because the quality is not great, no matter if the price tag was high or low, you can't even cover that up with shoes or accessories. I think this is his view because he lives in that world and he mainly focuses on shoes and accessories. So this is something where I have to say I disagree a bit. I don't know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments below. But one thing that I agree with is his attitude towards this timelessness, because he says, especially when it comes to bags at the moment, it seems that logos are still very important. He's not really interested in that. He says, I'd rather focus on the design and on the material than only on the logo. And he also says that this concept of an it bag can actually be quite dangerous, because social media has changed a lot. A lot of it bags have actually been burned because they had a very high and fast development in the beginning. Everybody wanted to have them, but then because you see it everywhere, you kind of get a bit bored by it. And I have to say, I also noticed this. I see on social media that the big brands, they heavily push their bags, no matter if it's Chanel, Louis Vuitton. I even see it with the Birkin bag at the moment. I feel that the Birkin bag is all around. But this is the danger. It can be interesting in the beginning, and then if everybody has it, it becomes very uninteresting, and then maybe you can't relate to this anymore and you don't want to wear the same bag or the same logo as everybody else. So I actually appreciate that he says he wants to focus on this design, on the material and quality aspect. I have to say, I don't own any Aquazzura bags. If you own any and want to share something about the quality or what you think about the design overall, please let me know in the comments below. Let's come to the last fact. Fact number 5 is about the business model, and I would like to talk about this because I think we can learn a lot from their business. Their distribution strategy is actually very clear. It's either DTC, direct to consumer, via their website or their own stores, or wholesale via selected retailers, for example, the department stores or platforms like mytheresa.com. When we look at the marketing, the core focus of their marketing has always been social media. They were an early adopter, and I think this helped them a lot. And of course, also their network and the events, which I mentioned before. Aquazzura is an Italian brand selling the Italian dream, but what is interesting is that the business is very much US driven, and I find this very, very smart, because think about it. Italy is a place of longing for many Americans. How many movies have you seen that are more or less cheesy, where Americans move to Italy, then maybe find a house or the love of their life, and then they stay in Italy. And this has been something that was in the making for a very long time. I mentioned this in other videos. From the 1950s onwards, Italy successfully established itself as a major holiday destination, especially for American tourists, due to not only their own movies, but also the Hollywood movies. When you think about Roman Holiday, for example, with Audrey Hepburn, this really put Italy on the map. And until today, there is this allure about Italy. And I think it's quite smart, because it's easier to sell this Italian dream to Americans than to Italians themselves. It might also be a bit more difficult to sell this dream outside of Italy in Europe. And some people say that Osorio creates or sells a romanticized version of Italy, because he's also not an Italian himself. But maybe this is this key ingredient that makes him successful, because he knows how to market Italy to foreigners. And another example that I have for this marketing strategy is the Milan-based label La Double J by J.J. Martins, who is also American. She also heavily sells this Italian dream, and I also think her major market is America. So this is something that I see in those two brands. Another big driver for their business is the Middle East, where they mainly focused on party and wedding shoes. Osorio says they always look into the regions and then learn from their past and then focus on what went well. And even though he mentioned that Asia is not a focus for him in previous interviews, I do think, judging from their expansion recently, that Asia is also becoming a big topic for them. Also, of course, Europe is a big topic, because I think worldwide. They now have so many fans that it will grow no matter which region. And he also says that he thinks this Italian dream sells well anywhere, because he says, do you know any country where people are not fascinated by La Dolce Vita, the lifestyle, the food, the people, the fashion? I think he's actually right with that. According to my research, the business is still owned by the two partners. It is a bit tricky to find concrete information because it's a private company, but I found an article from 2022 that said that the business is still entirely self-funded, so I assume this is still the case. But Osorio also said in recent interviews that he's not completely against taking on investment, and I think it may make sense soon given the expansion plans. Very often you need an external investor to finance those. So I would not be surprised if there will soon be an announcement that they are taking on investment. I think it's probably also an attractive business. And another hint may be the diversification of the business. They did not diversify just for investors, because Osorio has always emphasized that he always wanted to be more than just a shoe brand. He wanted a lifestyle brand. Hence, we also have the accessories, the homeware, of course, also the events. And they also started to move into hospitality. I read articles about a collaboration with the Hotel de Russie in Rome. I don't know if it happened or if this is still in a planning stage, but this would already show that they are moving into many more areas. And of course, this diversification then makes them very interesting and attractive also for investment. And according to an article by the magazine Prestige, in 2024, Aquazzura worked with 300 retailers in 58 countries and made sales of 70 million euros. Again, I have to say, I could not 100% confirm these numbers. I found them in that article. Maybe they were given to the editors for this article, but I just would like to say it's a bit tricky to find concrete information. When it comes to the marketing strategy, I think the two most important aspects are, on the one hand, social media, and on the other, also their network and all these partnerships. So let's start with the social media. I think they did it really well, and it was also a great time when they started out, because the brand was founded, as I said, around 2011-12, and this was the onset of Instagram. And during this time, small brands could really grow really fast on that platform. As we know today, it has become more difficult to do that. And I think Aquazzura was among the brands that really understood how to work with this new medium. And a lot of more established brands probably did not really understand it at the time as well as those two founders of Aquazzura did. And Osorio said in interviews that at the time, the way people communicated changed. And I think probably because he was part of that movement, he also understood it, and the brand could really capitalize on it really well. It was probably a bit easier back then because they were these first movers than it is today, but it shows how strong the social media marketing can be and how much it can help you. And then, of course, the network of Osorio and also of De Almeida Figueiredo is very important. You can see that because they have partnerships with other brands, but also celebrities. So one example for a brand collaboration would be with Swarovski for the Aura collection, where the heel actually features the big Swarovski crystals. Another example would be with Ferragamo, and Osorio said in interviews he was very proud of this collaboration. It made him very happy given that he worked for the brand. And I also saw that Aquazzura and the Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group collaborate for slippers. I actually think I saw other products as well. I think it was robes or something, but they somehow disappeared from the website. I don't know, but I also saw this. And again, I find this interesting because it's not only another brand collaboration, but it's also in hospitality. So I find this quite interesting. Of course, the celebrities are also important. I already mentioned before Emma Stone, Julianne Moore, Gigi Hadid, Jennifer Lawrence. The list is very, very long. And they managed to get their shoes basically not only in the front row, but also on the red carpet. And I think this is due to their very strong personal network. On the one hand, we have Osorio, who says he loves the parties. But I also think, especially here, the role of Ricardo de Almeida Figueiredo can't be underestimated. I did not find an explicit article saying this, but when we look at his background in PR, I mentioned before, he worked with brands like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Cartier. I'm sure he also is a great networker, that his network is very big, no matter if it's other brands, department stores, celebrities. So I think they complement each other very well, and it shows the importance of a very strong network. And one example for a celebrity collaboration on a shoe would be with Poppy Delevigne. Osorio mentioned in an interview that he met her in Paris and they immediately clicked, and then they decided to do this, and it was actually, the inspiration was taken from a piece of jewelry that Poppy Delevigne wore in Saint-Tropez, which had a moon and a star. And Osorio said he wanted to create something mystical, something magical. Poppy Delevigne also got married in Marrakesh, so this also influenced the design, and then they came up with this design together. So I think that's also quite a nice example of that. And with this, I've also reached the end of my video, and I'm really curious to know what you knew about Aquazzura before this video. Did you know all of these facts, or do you have other facts that you find important? Please let me know in the comments below. And as always, please also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. It really helps me if you haven't done so already, if you really subscribe to my channel. And also don't forget to hit that like button. If you want to read more, you can also head over to my website, thepinklookbook.com, and also don't forget to check out my fashion label Pelagona. And if you're a shoe aficionado and you want to learn more about your favorite shoe brands, I have another video where I talk about Manolo Blahnik and his famous Hangisi shoe. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and see you in the next one.